9.5, 9.6, 9.6. Round of applause! Okay, first Zint in ages, and my main A6400 camera, completely 100% out of battery. Okay, so this is my life recapped, free association in sequential order. None of this Kilgore Trout, Kurt Vonnegut stuff. This will be in sequence, random, sort of in sequence, maybe for my mom. I was born April 20th, 1964. That's a shocking 57 years ago, before the invention of digital video. I am recording this with 4 cameras because I am just that narcissistic. April 20th, 1964. Some hospital in New York City had the misfortune of bringing me into the world. But I am very fortunate to have been brought into this world by the world's greatest mom. Let's actually jump back about 24 years before that, when my mom, the world's greatest mom, was born in Chicago, Illinois. She, at a super young age, started training to be a ballet dancer. She, by the time she was finishing high school, was touring in the most prestigious ballet company, ABT, on the planet Earth. She then later retired from being an internationally traveling professional ballet dancer to become a Ford model. That is the ABT of ballet. Ford modeling is to pretty people. Then she had me. And then all of that kind of had to stop because I kind of probably put a damper on that. Actually, Broski, otherwise known as Douglas Stewart Allen, really put the stop and the kibosh on her modeling. But I was sort of the follow-up act that cemented her as a mom. Then, when I was 5, my father died, who we will not discuss that, because we want to keep this cheery and happy. So, before that, from when I was about 6 months old to about 5 or so, when my father died at 5.5, we lived in a mansion in New Rochelle. I really only have very few memories of, as a child. I have very few memories from yesterday, nonetheless, of being a child. So we lived in a mansion in New Rochelle. My mom says we were not rich, but I'll show you the listing here. And this was a mansion that rich people live in. But then my father died, and my mom had to, world's greatest mom, did I mention that? Had to go through a difficult period for obvious reasons. And we moved to a non-mansion, but nice small house in White Plains, New York. Very, very fond memories of 5 Patricia Lane in White Plains. She figured out a way to make things work. She did that in ways that I can't really ever fully appreciate the incredible efforts that she must have silently gone through to make all this happen. In this non-mansion house on 5 Patricia Lane, there was a unfinished basement where my greatest toy set was our sofa. We had a sofa downstairs next to a turntable that I think only had Jackson 5 Greatest Hits and a couple Elvis albums. I think that was the only albums we had down there. Elvis and the Jackson 5. And we did not have a TV there. There was only one TV, which was a black and white Zenith, I think, that was in Mom's bedroom. So we would entertain ourselves before God invented, Steve Jobs, who invented the iPhone. Which is amazing to think that once upon a time there were not Macintoshes and there were not iPhones. But it's true. It's true that once upon a time we lived in a life without these things. And our greatest toy, I think, was the cliche, our imagination. And we would take the sofas and make forts out of them. And that was my main childhood recreation, was playing forts downstairs, except for the time when, again, this is before Columbia, Maryland, when my mom is a movie fan. My mom has told stories about the 4-movie, 3-meal date with my father. And so she made sure that movies and theater, and we'll talk about theater in just a little bit, were a super important part of our childhood. So when I wasn't playing with a sofa, and this was because we had no refrigerator boxes to play with, because I think my mom probably could not afford a refrigerator after we moved to 5 Patricia Lane. But we did have a sofa because one needs to actually sit on something soft in a childhood. Otherwise, things can get really sad. So we had soft sitting surfaces, or a soft sitting surface downstairs in this sofa that was our fort. Because my mom was a movie nut and I grew up a movie nut, once I went to see All the President's Men. It would have been when it was in the theater. And downstairs in the basement was a typewriter. And I saw Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman investigate Watergate and expose that scandal. And I knew right then that I was going to become the world's greatest journalist. I was certain of that. So I learned how to make loud noises on the typewriter. I could not at that point spell, and I could not at that point type. But this was a mechanical typewriter, so old-fashioned, no revert to save, no time machine backups to restore to, no hyper backups. It was just you made your mistakes on the page, and then you learned to love your mistakes, because to fix the mistakes, that would require way, way too much work. So I, inspired by All the President's Men, learned to loudly clank on a keyboard and make lots of noises, and then throw out those random sheets of paper. Because I was a perfectionist. I just knew that the random characters I typed out were not worthy of my first Pulitzer. So this was an obsession, and this was my life for, I am guessing, all of 2 to 3 days, possibly 2 to 3 hours. Nonetheless, my first career was a sofa building expert, guru, and in sofa fort, in a sofa fort architect. My first career was sofa fort architect. My second career was basement random text journalist. Then it moved to 5 Patricia Lane. There were other kids in the block. Rule number one, almost all my life I've not known any of my neighbors except for at BU and 5 Patricia Lane. If you want to know your neighbors, you have to procreate. So thankfully my mother and father had procreated, and she moved me to a block with procreators. So there were probably about 5 to 8 other kids. The Lisa Freed across the street, the Agneses, I think, who I just Facebook friended one of them, Lynn Helmenthaler, who I danced with and stepped on the foot in the 6th grade dance private party thing. I'm jumping ahead now. I'm not getting to 6th grade. That was the beginning of my romantic life with stepping on Lynn Helmenthaler's feet. In any case, dodgeball. There would be neighbors, and I don't remember anything really about my neighbors, except for if you went out 5 Patricia Lane and went 20 steps to the left, so right next to the house to the left of us, where the daughter with her friends used to take me into the basement. I don't know why they took me into a basement, but they took me into a basement. But in any case, we would play dodgeball. So in front of 5 Patricia Lane, I would be playing dodgeball. And I became sort of an icon, a celebrity of Patricia Lane, because I had a theme song. So we would be playing dodgeball, and the other kids, I probably got hit a lot, but that was just so I could toughen myself up and get a good childhood vigor and strength from the beating of the dodgeball. But the song was, we're depending on you, Carrot Top, we're depending on you, Carrot Top, we're depending on you, Carrot Top. I think maybe they could have used some help from maybe James Ingram or Van Morrison or Barry Gibb or something to actually get some more lyrics. But it was a very catchy song. I actually even put it in a poem. It's in a poem that I wrote about young Mr. Matherly that I actually cried the one time I read in public in Bethel. We're not going to get to crying poetry. That's decades later. I guess my third career after the fort architecture, sofa fort architecture, and the random text journalism was the professional dodgeball and celebrity and theme song inspire. I really did not know the only family on my father's side was Grandma Wagner, who just made us drink carrot juice, and she did not scrape the carrots. And she probably got us socks, but all grandparents get socks for everyone. That just seems to be, if you're an aspiring, a youth who aspires to become a parent and a grandparent, don't get your grandkids socks. But in any case, I'm sure a fine grandmother. And I think that carrots, I do now think, are the food of the gods. Maybe it was because of this early training. And but I did learn that all the vitamins in the carrot are in the dirt on the outside of it. So she would take dirty carrots and put them in a blender and give us carrot juice. Was not too much of a fan of that. In any case, on my mother's side, there was had 2 grandparents, grandfather and grandmother. And the grandfather was obsessed with or interested in magic. I don't know how he got interested in magic. He introduced us to circle magic when I was a youth, very, very young. So probably somewhere between 6 and 10 years old. And we went to Circle Magic in Manhattan, like right in sort of Times Square, I think. And this was opened later, we would find out, by Lou Tannen's brother. The ultimate magic store was Tannen's Magic Shop, which was on the 54th floor of some place on 48th Street, also sort of Times Square. And oddly, the spin-off had the ground floor center of Times Square location. So I'm not sure how the smaller business had the bigger street level storefront. In any case, he would take us there and get us magic tricks and show us magic tricks. And PK magic later, much later. I got to be a fan of what was called PK magic, which is physicokinetic magic. It's magnet magic, and magnet magic is fascinating. But there was a novelty of a little, what goes in a pyramid in a coffin-like thing, a pharaoh in a sarcophagus or something like that would pop out. It was magnets. I'm gonna spoil something because I'm a bad, failed, retired magician. Sometimes they use magnets, sometimes they use mirrors, sometimes they use strings, and sometimes they use misdirection. Oh, look, it's over there. So my fourth career probably was magic. And just so you know, World's Greatest Mom. And World's Greatest Mom would encourage me in about anything I ever wanted to do. She encouraged me in magic. My mom did not have much money, but she always made sure that we saw movies, went to a couple plays a year, had a few vacations, I think 2 or 3 cruises, 2 or 3 Club Meds, and Disney World and Disneyland. We would go every year to the Tannen's Magic Convention that was in Brown's Hotel in upstate New York. This was the greatest thing a parent could do for their child, to literally bring magic into their world. Magic is something that involves discipline and practice. No, sir, I did not like that very much. God had not invented something called ADD, Attention Deficit Disorder, yet, so you could not call me that. He also did not invent parental controls to make sure that the sofa fortress was turned off during hours that I should be practicing. Next failed career was just sort of that magic career, complete failure there. Oh, well, it goes back to, a little bit before when I knew I was going to be a rock star. It was probably after I had my own theme song, which was We're Depending on You, Carrot Top, We're Depending on You, Carrot Top. In any case, I had my theme song. And my mom had gotten me a Sears $20 guitar. So the $20 guitar, this was all my Christmas, always came. Right now, of course, it comes from Amazon Prime, of course. Where else? That and B&H Photo. Where would Christmas come from? But back then, it was the Sears Christmas Wish catalog. I did not read much as a child, but I reread the new and updated version, cover to cover, of the Sears Christmas Wish catalog every year. Best reading you could possibly have. So I played the guitar. Went to a summer camp. I hated camp. I know parents are working and don't want their kids just lollygagging. So I hated regular, like, YMCA camp. But I think 1 or 2 years went to a music camp at the Westchester County Center. I took a guitar lessons there, and I learned how to play Feeling Groovy by Simon & Garfunkel. So that was the one song I could play in the guitar. But then, because my mom wanted to be the world's greatest encourager, it was probably the best Christmas in humankind. I mean, not just my life, but humankind life. All the gifts were being opened up. And we would like sort of count the boxes that each of us, my brother and I, would get. And I think I thought that I was probably just a little bit short, and I was probably preparing myself to be a little bit sad. But then she probably said, "Oh, Eric, come downstairs with me." And I went downstairs, and right past the sofa of my previous career was drums. She got me a drum set. I know my mom is incredibly smart. Maybe she wasn't so smart that particular week. Maybe she was overloaded with work. But it was the world's greatest Christmas present. So I learned to bang on a drum all day without any practice or skills. And I did that probably for what my mom and the neighbors would say way too long. May have only been 3 days, but it's the best Christmas ever. Later, when I actually got kicked out of my drumming class, normally I've been sort of in classes, an Arnold Horshack trying to be interactive, trying to be what I think is funny. Who knows if anyone else agrees? We were learning how to paradiddle, which is a drum thing you do. It's not like a sex crime or anything. It's something you do with drumsticks. I'm sure there are sex things to do with drumsticks. This wasn't one of them. This was, you go paradiddle, 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 paradiddle. But I think this was actually after I had gotten past my drumming career, because I don't remember ever paradiddling on my drum set. I think I just banged on them. At one point, my mom came home with a gift from a friend of hers that was a piece of stationery that said Eric S. Allen, and it had an illustration of me, commissioned. It was very much just of me, of a rock star with a guitar. It was certain at this point that not only I knew what my career would be as a future rock star, but my mom knew it too. And it was a sort of a pioneering thought, because at that point in time, mostly if you wanted to be a rock star, you had to have some sort of musical talent. Eventually, I think in the 90s and the punk generation and all of that whole idea of talent kind of just came out of the musical equation. So I could have actually been an early punk star. I could have been the Sex Pistols, although that would have been kind of inappropriate as a 7-year-old boy to be in the Sex Pistols. But it yeah, different times, yeah, might be, yeah, possible. So that was the failed career of being a rock star. I want you to know that this is all because of the world's greatest mother, who encouraged all of these really righteous career paths. I'm going to stop this video of my elementary school years and all the careers. We'll pick this up maybe next week, because my 6400, because I let it be without any battery, just shut off. So we will pick up the scripting story, I guess probably right before we move to Columbia, Maryland. I'll talk about the snowball fight then.